Then, of course, in time of disruption, we know that both productivity as well as engagement goes down a little bit. And if not entirely the full engagement, so to say, parts of what builds engagement will go down. And we can see that actually in our pulse check as well. As we said before, we can see there are some issues when it comes to trust, are we walking the talk, are my voice heard, a little bit of continuous improvement, and also collaborations which we perhaps don't really understand why it's there. But that goes without saying, because when the shit hits the fan, if you excuse my French, this is what is happening when we need to act fast and promptly. When it comes to our supply constraints, for instance, there's a little bit of a tunnel vision. We don't have time perhaps for communicating the way we want to, because we need to put out the trucks, ship spare parts, and whatever we have to do. It goes without saying, and it is understandable. If we put these two figures together, this is pretty much a day in your working life. So you need to handle both of them. You need to handle the fact that we need to maintain an engagement in order to be successful, regardless if it's short-term or long-term. But you also need to be aware of that there are some issues that perhaps is going down due to that we have a disruptive operations for the time being, and we need to have a close look at that one and perhaps make up some decision to regain the parts that we have lost in terms of walking the talk, to set aside a little bit of communication time or whatever you want, or whatever it is, despite the fact that we are in those constrained times. So we need to reflect on that a little bit sometimes, that because we do know engagement levels are so high, and it will help us really to be successful through engagement then. Here's another day in your working lives. To go from here to there, we have a clear strategic direction. We know where to go. We can see it in front of us. We know over the hill there, we have our vision, our target image, where we want to be. We're talking about transformation. At the same time, we have a lot of questions. We receive a lot of questions for our co-workers and colleagues and people out there stating, what is it now that's of highest priority? Is it perform or transform? Is it to put out our diesel engines or to focus on EMOB alternatives? We also have a question saying, what is the most important thing? Is it our businesses to protect that? Or is it to work with sustainability? That is a massive kind of investments in and sustainable kind of components or products and whatever we need to our premises. And here's the deal. It's both. That's the tough part, but we need to deal with those two kind of questions at the same time. We will never derive from our vision or our target image, but we need to prioritize many, many times during that way. And it will look like this eventually then. It looks like a spaghetti diagram from Kaluga. Stefan, it was a joke. But this is the way it goes. We need to maneuver it like that. Sometimes we have to prioritize, sometimes we need to work faster, promptly and all that stuff, and then have to go back again. But the vision is clear, the strategic framework is here. And for us in GTO, it is clearly like so. We will build customer success through sustainable operations. Stick to that one. I think that one of the success factors that we have had a kind of a high engagement, despite the fact that we have a tough times the last 18 months, is actually that we have succeeded to train and maintain that kind of training level on 3,000 managers and leaders throughout the group. And also on top of that, we have been very frequent when we have communicated, be it digital or personal, or in team meetings, or again in meetings like this. We have had a high frequency of communication activities as well. Through the training, know what we can and should communicate, focusing on, for instance, engagement. And this is just a crash course in communication for result. If you haven't done it, please do, because it is a great communication training. And I've been around, as you said, many hundred years in this company, and I've never seen that kind of change or that kind of commitment in any unit as I have seen here in GTO by prioritizing that kind of training. Again, 3,000 leaders. EMT is a role model in many, many ways. They have done the 1 day or 2 day course, whatever it was at that time. We have done the refresher. This autumn, we have actually had a couple of workshops talking about how we formulate ourselves and had camera training, how we perform in front of a camera. All in all, to be better communicative leaders. And that is something that we all have to focusing on. Crash course in communication for result is like this. Know, feel, do. That is really the objective. What is it that we want our people to know? What is it that we want our people to feel? What is it that we want our people to do? Head, heart, or hand. And it's a very simple tool, actually. So you can utilize it before you make a phone call. Before you make a phone call, you have to decide upon yourself, the person that I'm calling, what is it I want that person to know, feel, and do? Before I go to a team meeting, what is it that I want them to know, feel, and do? Before I do a salary setting, what is it that I want them to know, feel, and do? You can always utilize that. That is a kind of a objective setting tool, so to say. So that is the first part. The second one, which is really important in the CFR, is that we prepare ourselves, that we don't walk into a meeting or meeting a group of people or even an individual unprepared. And then we have the communication staircase going from awareness to activities, and you can't pass away from one single of those stairs. You can't go straight from awareness to action. Then there will be no longevity in what you are saying. You have to pass them all. And then we have the communication framework, which is the classical one. Why, who, what, how, when, and follow up. And that is something that you either have here in your brain, or you print it out and have it to follow in by yourself, or you have it digitally in your computer. But every time, and you may say, oh, it takes too long time. No, it doesn't. It takes you 2-3 minutes. Oh, you are smart guys. You're smart guys. So it take you 3 minutes. And the outcome of investing those 3 to 5 minutes, if you go to a team meeting, whatever, that will help you a lot to succeed and to be a better communicative leader. So that is something that I also suggest that you do as well. And then finally, we have what we call then bring things to life, which is, for instance, utilizing this ketchup bottle. And I hope whatever you will remember, I can assure you will remember the ketchup bottle, and then you will remember that has something to do with communication and leadership, not maybe hamburgers and sausages. I don't know. Then a final slide. And here's another message on top of the ketchup effect. And here's the thing. Self-confidence comes from knowing the subject. And you know that by heart. You have been trained, you have been educated, you have been in the different places in the factory, or in a DC, or in a regional organization, a global organization. We have hired you because we want you to take instrumental decision on making progress in our operations. That is your skill set. That is what we want you to do to make the right decision. But then in order to make sure that decision you make will be acted upon and understood, you need to communicate in the best way. And that is to create trust. And I have 2 examples here. One is Warren Buffett and another one is Martin Luther King. Warren Buffett, sometimes I call him a nerd. I know he's so into money. He would like to increase his wealth all the time. But he's kind of a nice person when you start to read about him. When you go into his office, usually when you go into, maybe I say some stupid things now, but usually when you go into an office in America, there's always a big plagues about the university that they participate in or went to. And he has a degree, master in science. But that is not the plaque you will see in his office. He has a plaque, but he went to an evening course in Daniel Carnegie, I think it was, where he spent a couple of evenings in order to be a better presenter, how to communicate. Because as he says to all the new recruiters that he recruited in his team, is that 85% of the value you will bring into my company comes from how well you communicate. Sometimes he referred that to human engineering, which I think is an interesting way of expressing it, but it's how you communicate. Martin Luther King, he had an issue that he wanted to that he wanted to drive, that he wanted to make it to people to understand about civil rights. And he came from a small place in North America, but with his voice and the way he communicated, he almost changed the entire world. I have a dream. Now is the time. Free at last, free at last, free at last. We still remember that. And it's 50 years ago that he said it. It was a tremendous communicator. And what I'm trying to say with this picture here is that the pendulum there should go between those two. What the self-confidence that you have to making the right decision, an instrumental decision based on facts and whatever you have, but to communicate that, otherwise nothing will happen. So the pendulum needs to go between those two lines. Taking the right decision, communicating it. Sometimes you communicate and then you take the right decision, but you have to go back and forth. That is really my message to you today. And I do hope when you come home now after this TMM, that you will say something about what you thought about the feelings that we had here, the unity that we have here, the decision on our strategic direction that we will move forward. We tweaked it a little bit in order to be better, suit us in a better way, and try to create that kind of feeling that I hope you have after this meeting, so that the other people can feel that too. Because if all people feel like we are doing today, then this unit that we have, GTO, will run like a, I don't know, like a Formula One car on the track towards the visions that we are representing. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you farewell. Thank you.